Hi, I'm Antonio Guimares, and this half hour is aimed at people who are blind or have low vision and the people who support them. Blindness can be an uncomfortable subject, even terrifying. But whether you're blind from birth like me, or it comes on suddenly, or your sight gradually fades, you're not alone. There are people and organizations who can help make your life easier, happier, and more connected. That's what this show is about. Practical answers to a serious challenge. We call it Practical Blindness.
Today on Practical Blindness, navigating the system, what services are available to visually impaired people in New York, and how to get them. In Tech Talk, how iPhone's accessibility features can help you get around and stay in touch. And in our Better Life segment, Running While Blind, with an expert on adaptive sports. That's all ahead here on Practical Blindness. First up, navigating the system.
Living with low vision or blindness means learning some new names and some new rules. There are organizations and agencies built to serve you, and it helps to learn how to get in the door and what's on the other side. For our first look at navigating the system, we're happy to welcome Frank Primigia, Managing Director of Rehabilitation Services and Facilities at Helen Keller Services here in New York. Welcome, Frank. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us about Helen Keller Services. What do you guys do? And
Helen Keller Services has been around for approximately 120 years. We're a nonprofit organization that serves total rehabilitation services for the blind and visually impaired population, as well as deafblind. We have two divisions of Helen Keller Services, one being Helen Keller Services for the blind, that services 5 boroughs here in New York City and all of Long Island. And then the National Center for Deafblind services deafblind clients here in New York, as well as throughout the United States. Like I said, we are a full-service rehab organization. We work with children from birth all the way up to 102 years of age.
Okay, thank you so much. And let's focus on the services from Helen Keller Services for the Blind here in New York. What are some of the services provided to folks who come?
Well, we provide, like I said, a full gamut of services. We have an EI program, we have a preschool program, and then we jump up to what we call the tween program, which is 10 to 13-year-olds, where we actually teach them and get them started on pre-vocational skills, also college skills. We provide, like I said, all the way up to vocational rehab clients that are interested in getting back to work or want a job or having difficulty maintaining their job. And then we also have a senior program, adapted living program, which is 55 and older. And all these services we can provide, all these age groups, we provide the basic services of orientation and mobility, rehab teaching, or as it's known, skills of daily living, social casework. And then we get into the specialized fields of typing, braille, computer training, placement services, and we even provide a camp out in Long Island.
So it's quite an array of services that you provide, and training. Must have quite a large staff throughout.
Yes, we have a large staff, but we can always use more. We service a lot of clients in the New York City area, and unfortunately, we can't get to everybody. And there are other agencies that do provide some of the same services as we do. There's vision services for the blind, and also Lighthouse Gill services, and there's also Goodwill Industries that provide some basic placement services.
Mm-hmm. As far as senior training the senior blind, what do you find is a challenge and an impact that Helen Keller Services can have on someone who is giving up that driver's license, maybe has been sighted all their life, and now for one reason or another is becoming part of that large segment of people who are the senior blind?
Well, the biggest problem, especially if they've lost their sight somewhere along later years, is the adjustment to their blindness. The biggest issue is what am I going to do now that I can't see, that I can't drive, I can't walk around the neighborhood, I won't be able to go to the movies, I won't see my children's faces, etc. So what we try to do is to point out and demonstrate to them that Yes, some things you won't be able to do, but just because you're legally blind or visually impaired does not mean you have to sit in the corner and just vegetate. There are thousands and thousands of legally blind individuals that are out there that are productive in the community, that are doing things like going to plays and going to movies, going to sporting events, reading. There's adaptive equipment in the computer that you can buy, and there's CCTV in large print and so on. So the first thing we try to do is get them to adjust to their blindness, and then we try to build up their confidence and demonstrate through the various skills that we teach them that they are capable of doing a lot more than they thought they were going to be able to do.
What's that adjustment process like? What does Helen Keller, how do you start training a newly blinded senior?
Well, the first thing that we do is we hook them up, depending on what their services are going to be, what services they require from the state, or even what services they want. It might be simply as an orientation mobility instructor, teach them how to get around their apartment or getting out into their neighborhood just for a little bit of exercise and get outside. It could be skills of daily living, like I mentioned. We have teaching where maybe just teaching them how to sign a check or how to heat up water, for a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, or making a simple sandwich. And then we also like to get them involved in our social casework program, where there they are met with a social worker, a licensed social worker, where they then get into, again, the adjustments for blindness. And then they might need some simple things or some counseling. They might need to get hooked up with Meals on Wheels, or they might have some problem with Social Security or immigration and so on. So that person then might also then, once they've reached a certain point in their training with social casework, go into one of the support groups that we have. And we have support groups for all age groups.
Frank, tell me who qualifies for services and how would somebody connect with Helen Keller Services?
Okay, first of all, the basic requirement for all our clients is that they have to be certified legally blind, which is 20 over 200 with best lenses available. If you qualify that, you have to be a resident of New York State and, of course, a citizen of the United States, or have proper papers that allow you to be into the United States. So there we have two different categories. If you're a senior, which is the state qualifies as 55 and older, we get all sorts of clients from optometrists, ophthalmologists, low vision providers, doctors, word of mouth. We have an excellent reputation in the community, so people, if they find out you have a visual problem, they tell people to come to Helen Keller, they give their numbers and so on. We also have an outreach person that goes out into the community and tries to find his clients that are not being serviced. They might go to health fairs, community parties and activities they have, senior centers and so on. Mm-hmm. We are responsible, we being the agencies, are responsible to find these clients. The state does not provide this client because the money that pays for the services for seniors is state money. Mm-hmm. So if you are not 55, or if you're not 55 or you're interested in going to work, or if you have a job and you want to maybe improve your status at the job, or if you're having a job where you're having difficulty keeping and you need some help, these are what we call vocational rehab clients. These clients we get from the New York State Commission for the Blind. They are referred to whichever agency doesn't have a waiting list or has the appropriate services, or maybe geographic location. These clients can also come to the agencies and they would meet with a social worker or our outreach person, and there we would take the information and then refer them to the New York State Commission for the Blind. The services that are provided for the seniors are free, mm-hmm. and the services that are provided for the vocational rehab clients are free, and some, the folks that move on to computer training and so on, most of that equipment is free, except it is based on economic need.
Frank, thank you so much for coming and speaking with us today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We'll always give you contact information about useful resources, including the ones we feature on the show. You can reach Helen Keller Services at helenkeller.org or at 718-522-2122. That's 718-522-2122. And here's the number for the New York State Commission for the Blind, 866-871-3000. Again, 866-871-3000. Now, Tech Talk.
Using a smartphone today is as ubiquitous as owning a car has ever been for people. And for the blind, since Apple's 3GS phones and iOS 4, the voiceover feature has been an equalizer for people who can pick up a phone, a mobile device, and use it seamlessly and on the same playing field as a sighted person. Our next guest is Lynette Tatum, a tech enthusiast and trainer who teaches Microsoft Word at CCVIP, the Computer Center for Visually Impaired People. Thanks, Lynette.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you. And it's amazing how many of us have the stories of how we found a flat screen phone
Yes.
with very few buttons, that the way you operate the phone is without buttons.
Exactly.
And for me, I just would encourage all my friends when it first came out that an iPhone could be accessible. It's like, don't get one, don't get one. What are you talking about, buttons?
Yes.
But it turns out these things are life-changer, aren't they?
They are. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's not that I'm, walking around looking down at my screen, but I definitely, whenever I can, have my headphones in and I'm listening. But with GPS, I do have the phone out in front of me listening. So that's just one of the things I do with it. I mean, it's become, gosh, there are just so many things. It's hard to put all, The main thing, though, I guess would be text messaging, mail, goodness, I mean, Siri, for heaven's sake, and so much more.
Yeah, these devices are a must. Today I couldn't do without mine.
Same.
And there are some tricks out there that make things a little easier. Some people come into iOS who are blind and overuse Siri, would you say?
Yes, oh yes, they use Siri for everything. And Siri, I have a small story. Siri is great. Some people mail with Siri. And I received an email, and the person was asking me a question, and at the end of the question came the word, "Thank you, idiot." And I know that is not what they meant to say. But, so it's difficult, in my view, it's challenging to go back and you're talking to Siri again. Okay, now you have to redo the whole thing and redo. It's easier, I think, to use a Bluetooth keyboard for any lengthy editing.
And we have one here, as a matter of fact, and your phone is open to the texting app, to the text app, with a conversation with me.
Record audio, button, message, text field, is editing, iMessage.
And
Insertion point at start.
we could dictate a message or use Siri. That works sometimes.
Yes.
But if you're doing some heavy writing and you're writing an email, you can just say, let's see, activate the
Navigation
field,
mode, yeah.
and we type, "Hello,
Space.
Antonio.
Space.
Please meet me at the top of the stairs
Space.
when you get off the
Elevator.
subway."
Oh, the subway, okay.
Quick nav on. Record audio.
And it's sent.
There you go.
Message. Hello, Antonio. Please meet me at the top of the stairs when you get off the subway. 12:42
Makes
p.m.
more sense.
Actions available.
And there is, if you're by yourself, you can do this.
Delivered. Show more. Button.
Yes.
Message. Text field. Is editing. iMessage.
Dictation thing, if it's,
Yes.
see if it'll pick up here. Hello, Antonio, comma, please meet me at the top of the stairs when you get off the subway, period.
Inserted. Hello, Antonio. Please meet me at the top of the stairs when you get off the subway.
Beautiful.
Send. Button. Send. Dimmed. Record audio.
And it's gone, and I got it.
Yep.
So, different tricks for different situations.
Definitely.
And most apps come out accessible these days, thankfully.
Yes.
And it does take some training to get around a flat screen if you've never used one.
It does.
And
And I don't want to leave out that we also have Zoom. for those who are large print users. They can use this. There is a zoom feature as well.
That's true.
Yeah.
What's the most, what's the easiest thing that people come out and find when you hand them the phone? What's the surprising thing for folks?
Just that they're able to move their finger across the screen, they hear it, and once I tell them to double tap to activate it, well, that's the end of that. I mean, I've handed this phone to several family members, one I can think of in particular. Now she's getting there. I mean, she understands that it's not just, swiping with, I think they do one finger back and forth, up and down, left and right, and all this stuff, that she knows how to double tap, and I mean, she knows my tricks a bit.
She's a little more voiceover literate than...
That's correct, yes. She doesn't know them all, but she certainly knows how to. If I handed her the phone, and she's able to navigate.
And what resources are there for people who come in, learn the basics, and maybe want to stay learning more and asking questions?
Now we're talking about at CCVIP?
CCVIP and in the community, in the blind community.
Good. Oh my gracious. Okay, well, let's start with AppleViz. AppleViz, AppleVis.com. It is a repository for all things Apple, including Macs, Apple Watches, phones, Mac Pros, or whatever they're called. Blogs, demonstrations. For a time there, they weren't accepting, they have a podcast, and for a bit there, they weren't accepting submissions from the community. They have resumed.
The AppleViz?
Yes, and so you can get step-by-step someone walking and talking you through using an app. There are tons of reviews. App developers many know to go to AppleViz because there's a huge community of folks who will review their apps. They send out promo codes, and people will review the app and come back with their suggestions and this kind of bugs and this kind of thing.
I find AppleViz to be a really, really good go-to place and really guide somebody who wants to continue learning about other applications, if something goes wrong, if they want to review something.
Yes.
And it's a great resource for folks.
It is. And there's there is someone who's put out the beginner's guide to the iPhone. So,
Donette, thank you so much for speaking with me. And
you're welcome.
Hopefully we can continue sharing information with one another and learning.
Absolutely.
For information about the Computer Center for Visually Impaired People, call 646-312-1420. That's 646-312-1420. Blindline.org is a database of resources for the blind, online or by phone 9 to 5 weekdays at 888-625-1616. 888-625-1616. Now, better life.
Exercise plays a crucial role for anyone. It is a key to living a longer, even happier life. Our next guest helps bring the benefits of exercise to people with disabilities, including the blind, through her work as a director of the New York chapter of Achilles International. Her work and that of other volunteers includes guide running and tandem swimming with blind athletes. She is Kathleen Bateman. Welcome to our show, Kat.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's good to have you. And if you can tell us what you do and how the events at Achilles International here in New York happen.
I would love to. The mission of Achilles is to enable people with all types of disabilities to participate in mainstream athletics in order to promote personal achievement and lower the barriers to living a fulfilling life. So that's what I do in a nutshell. What that actually means is that we hold bi-weekly workouts in Central Park every Saturday morning, every Tuesday evening. And at these workouts, upwards of 60, even 100 people on a sunny Saturday morning will come together to walk and run together. The population that's there is made up of athletes with disabilities, of many varying types of disabilities, including visual impairment, full and partial blindness, as well as able-bodied volunteers or sighted volunteers who are there to support the athletes to achieve their mileage goals and pace goals for that day.
What do you think some people may have as a hesitation to even start thinking about coming to something like this?
I think it's the same thing that is why everyone hesitates to go to the gym for the first time, because it's the unknown. They feel insecure or vulnerable, like people are going to look at me or laugh at me, or I'm going to struggle in some way because of the unknown. I think that's true whether you're sighted or non-sighted. And I think that a lot of the athletes that come to us at the beginning don't view themselves as athletes yet. So that's probably the biggest challenge is actually just to get them to the park for the first time, and then they're hooked.
It's like the hardest part of exercise, they say, is putting your shoes on. Once that's a hurdle
exactly.
That get through.
Exactly. The quote that says, what is it, like 95% is showing up. Mm-hmm. I think that's definitely true for exercise. I think with Achilles and the population that we work with, it's even more true because there are more hurdles to get to a place to exercise. And that could be just in terms of the setting itself. We meet in Central Park, which requires either to take Access-a-Ride or public transportation. And then on top of that, the other challenge for many of our athletes is that they need a guide, a volunteer to walk or run with. So you're putting yourself out there, and that's a lot to ask of people. And I make a huge deal the first time a new athlete shows up. It embarrasses them a little, but it's okay.
And when you talk about discovering what it is that you're capable of as a person with disabilities, and say a blind athlete in my case, what changes in the person when they start finding out what they're capable of a lot of times in the work that you guys do?
So the biggest thing that changes is confidence. And the confidence is established by first setting very small goals. It could be from walking to one lamppost to another. Then the next week coming back and doing, let's say, 3 lampposts, and ultimately a 5K to a half marathon to a full marathon. These are all goals that we set, and I think that our athletes don't realize how much they can achieve until they're shown the way, and then at that point they take over and they set their own goals.
So point by point, somebody ends up overcoming those small challenges or small goals that they find when they start exercising. And some people probably already get there with a good foundation and being in shape already, but I bet there are people who find themselves up a mountain and then climbing that and overcoming that quite well.
I would say that's a little bit of it's actually not entirely true. Mm-hmm. The population that comes to us for their first workout are usually not in shape. I would say that it's the minority that arrive at our workout kind of having already run or been a regular athlete. And I think that's the beauty of Achilles. It's about finding their inner athlete and that's not something that they've discovered until they arrive.
What's that like to see for you, someone finding their inner athlete?
It is incredibly rewarding, not just to see someone achieve these goals, but these athletes become my friends, obviously, and so it's the way when a friend sets goals and you cheer for them and you watch them cross the finish line. In the same way, like I feel like a greater sense of joy because I feel like I've been able to watch a friend come from taking their first steps to then finishing their first race.
And how can someone find Achilles International here in New York City?
Our website is www.achillesinternational.org. You can look up our Facebook page, which is Achilles NYC. We are also on Twitter, and and I think probably the biggest way to find us is actually just to show up. Come on a Saturday at 10 a.m. or a Tuesday at 6 p.m. to 90th and 5th Avenue at the entrance of Central Park. And we are there every week. We never cancel. We will be there in the snow, in the slush, in the rain, and in the sunshine. So if you show up, we will be there. Ask for Kat, and we will lead you to your first race.
Great. Thanks for coming. It's great to have you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gatewave is a free audio service providing round-the-clock readings of newspaper and magazine articles, available online to registered users and through special radios in the New York City area. Information and applications at gatewave.org or call 646-202-1049. That's 646-202-1049.
Before we wrap up for the day, let's hear a few words from the producer and director of this show, Gordon Rothman.
Hello, and thanks for joining us, whether you're getting this on cable, on the web, on a podcast, or on the radio. When I ran Gatewave, a radio reading service for people who are blind or visually impaired, I talked to a lot of people who were new to vision loss, and many of them were frustrated by the steepness of the learning curve. They wanted answers to what was possible and who could help them achieve it. Well, we'd like this program to be part of the process of answering those questions. Please let us know whether you think this should become a monthly series of programs. You can let us know by sending us an email at mail@practicalblindness.com. That's mail@practicalblindness.com. We'd love any feedback you have to offer and your suggestions for future guests and topics.
We hope you learned something you can apply to your life today. I'm Antonio Guimarães. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great day.
Our music is called Inspired by Kevin MacLeod from Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. Our website is practicalblindness.com. Twitter handle is @practicalbl. Produced through the facilities at Brick Community Media Center in Brooklyn.